Welcome everyone, my name is Karl Vetter. I am with the Innovative Communicators Toastmasters Club out of Grand Prairie, Alberta, that is in Canada, 5 hours away from Edmonton, about that. Today I'm going to make a video, and this is hopefully the first of a series about why Toastmasters. Why did I join? What do I get out of it? What could you get out of it? What is Toastmasters all about? So please check out this video, drop a like if you can, and until you join as a family member in the Toastmasters family, I hope you like the video. Today is all about why Toastmasters. So why Toastmasters for me? First of all, English is not my first language. I had to learn English. At first I learned it in school, but I learned it from teachers who also just learned it from teachers. Nobody that I learned English from really ever was from an English-speaking country. I grew up in Germany, and we learned a fairly broken English. So I moved to Australia, and I learned Australian English there. And it was very different from the English that I speak today. Then I moved to Canada, and I learned the English that people speak here. And it's different than the Australian English, and then again, a lot different than the English that I learned back home. And I have to admit, I struggled a lot with the language. I struggled to speak it. I struggled to get the words in the perfect order. I struggled to make sense. People would look at me with question mark on their faces. And there was just a lot going on that I had to learn. So one day, a friend of mine who used to be the accountant for our company asked me, would you ever want to join a Toastmasters club? Or would you ever want to come to a meeting? And I said, well, I guess so, sure. I've heard about it, and a lot of speakers that I follow have been with Toastmasters in the past. So I thought maybe I should check it out. So I went to a meeting. At that point in time, the club that they ran was an all-female club. It was a wonderful time. There was amazing ladies all around me, and they asked me to join. And the first meeting, my first ever Toastmasters meeting in a club setting like they had it, just went amazing. And I was surprised. I loved it. I loved every single bit of it. And I'm going to go into detail what a Toastmaster meeting actually looks like later on. But I just had so much fun, so I said, sign me up. If this is a place where I can just talk and share my ideas and really share my thoughts, and people want to listen, then this is the place I need to be. I get feedback, and I can be surrounded by people who have similar thinking to what I have, like-minded people, people who really are on the same wave. Everybody wants to improve their public speaking skills, their communication skills in general, and maybe they're just there to share their story and have someone listen. That's perfectly fine too. That's what Toastmasters is all about. As you can see here, this is the Toastmasters landing page, and they say Toastmasters is the place where leaders are made. It's an international company. They're in pretty much all the countries that you can imagine, and that builds a super large network. Toastmasters is incredible to me because it helped me improve my communication skills to a level where I am so comfortable in front of people. I'm so much more comfortable with clients. I'm incredibly comfortable in front of crowds by now, and it just is such a blessing in my life that I can say, I can communicate my thoughts very clearly, very concise, to the point that I feel that people understand me wherever I go. When I joined the club, I was presented with this curriculum. It is basically a curriculum that every Toastmaster gets as soon as they join. This was the time where there was a traditional curriculum where you worked on two skills. You worked on the communication skill on one side and on the leadership skill on the other side. So you basically got a manual, a training manual, a hard copy manual for the communication track, and that's literally what it was called, the track for the communication. And then you had a manual, again, a printed copy for the leadership track, which was called the leadership manual. And they started with the basic level, the first level of competency. So they called it the Competent Communicator Manual and the Competent Leader Manual. And that's where I started. It is 10 projects in each of the manuals, 10 communication projects, and then 10 leadership projects. And that's how I started out. I do believe I joined in May. And what they asked me, because the Toastmaster year runs from July 1st to June 30th. So I joined in May, and right away they asked me, hey, for July 1st, would you like to join the executive? Now, I had no idea what the executive was. I'm going to get back to it later, what the executive does, a little bit more detailed, but they challenged me to join an executive and to really have a say in what the club is doing. So I said, sure, if you support me and guide me and mentor me through it, I'm sure I can do it. And so I joined the executive come July 1st as well. And since then, Toastmasters International and the people in it have thrown so many incredible challenges my way. They have shared the most incredible wealth of knowledge with me. They've mentored me, they've coached me, they've supported me, they showed incredible leadership, and they've really, really helped me grow as a communicator and as a leader myself. When starting Toastmasters, there's a certain procedure, obviously, that you go through. Like I said, you want to start with the basic levels of competency, both on the communication side and on the leadership side. And then you want to go from the competent communicator to the advanced communicator. And from the advanced communicator, you want to become a distinguished communicator. When you're a competent leader, you want to become an advanced leader. And when you're an advanced leader, you want to become a distinguished leader, so that you have the 3 levels of skills. And once you become a distinguished leader and a distinguished communicator, we will give you the title of Distinguished Toastmaster, or short DTM, Distinguished Toastmaster. And that's basically the story in a nutshell. The program has changed since. It's not the traditional way where you go straight on the communication track and straight on the leadership track. But now we have a system called Pathways. And Pathways is much more custom tailored to the experience that you want out of Toastmasters. When you join, you basically fill out a questionnaire, answer a couple of questions, and then we will recommend a path that may fit to you, or you get the selection of all available paths, and from them you can select the one that you would like to start on most. When it comes to my experience in Toastmasters, I've seen the most incredible things. When I joined the club that I'm still with now, that's still my home club, if you want to call it that, we had a couple of incredible members. And we had a member who was and still is challenged by a disability. And her story probably had such an incredible impact on me because it was just so beautiful. She believes from the bottom of her heart that every person has a story, and everybody has something to say. Everybody has something to share with the world. And what better place to give people the opportunity to find their voice than Toastmasters International. So she was actually a founding member of the club that I was with, and it was for people who she believed had to get a chance to find their voice. They had to get an opportunity to bring what they have inside of them out in front of people and present their story to an audience. With her help, the club that I belong to actually helped on many occasions, as for example at the Society for People with Disabilities, where we helped to host movie nights, where we would send team members, club members from our Toastmasters club and help announce the movies and maybe give a little spiel about what the movie is about. So we train and practice at the Toastmaster meetings, And then we take this into the real world. We take this into the community, and we really help by providing MCs. We maybe help by providing announcers to certain events, and especially for those people who are really in need of some strong people who can stay on stage and who can present well to large audiences. There was a story that I've been told that Toastmasters helps each other, or Toastmaster members help each other on so many levels. It was a member who had sent or helped his daughter to do a year abroad in Greece. Now, when the daughter was trying to leave Greece, turbulences and situations politically just changed for the worse in Greece, and planes would not leave Greece for a little while. Her plane and her flight was cancelled. And so they tried to get accommodations for her. They really tried to help her get into a safe space. And at that point in time, they just reached out to the Toastmasters community. And what they found that within a short period of time, Toastmasters from Greece would connect with them and open their house to the daughter to help her and to provide a safe stay for her until her plane was leaving. It's such an incredible story, I find, where the community that is genuinely about self-improvement is much more than that, but it's improving the community and the community that they live in such an incredible way. And it's international, so there's a lot of Toastmasters clubs that help a lot of communities. And in generally speaking, if you become a better leader and if you become a better communicator, you're helping your community, your family. You help every single person around you, because you're going to be able to communicate your message much clearer, much more straightforward. And I appreciate those things a lot, amongst other things, about Toastmasters, and I just have an incredible time, and I get so excited to invite people, because everybody has a story, everybody has a voice, everybody has something that needs to be shared with an audience of some sort, and that's what Toastmaster is for. That's the room where you practice in a safe zone, you get feedback, and from that you'll grow. Another story that I personally lived and personally experienced was that at some point a lady that I met at Toastmasters who lives about 5 hours away from here reached out to me and said, "Karl, my husband was repositioned in the company, and he now has to travel to Grand Prairie where I live, and he needs a place to stay. Do you have anybody who has a room, or do you know of anybody who can provide accommodations for my husband?" And I said, "Well, we actually have a room. We have a spare bedroom, and it was fully furnished." So at that point in time, we just took her husband, Sean, in, and he stayed with us for about 2 months, I believe, and it was the most incredible time. It was such an enrichment for all of us, because we learned from him, and he had an amazing time. He told us with us, so we shared our German cuisine. We cooked German dishes, and he loved them. And in return, he looked at some of the electrical stuff that I had at the house, because he was an electrician. And it just worked out perfectly. It just worked out in an incredible way, and the connection only came through Toastmasters. Another story that I have, where we went to a convention, again, 5 hours away. And at the convention, I met someone who ran a hauling business, a transportation business. And out of that, we have established a business relationship, totally non-Toastmasters related, where he would haul goods from one of our branches to another branch. And I only have made this connection because I went through a Toastmasters convention and met that person through Toastmasters, and we hit it off right away. We became close friends, and we gave each other feedback on our Toastmasters journey a lot. That brings me basically to what Toastmasters does. At the end of the day, I believe, and this is important, this is the theory of the three things, the theory of the three things that you need to learn any skill. A story of three things that you need to learn any skill. And I got this from past international president of Toastmasters. His name is Jim Kochi. I hope I didn't slaughter that name too much, but Jim has shared this theory of the 3 things that you need to learn any skill with me, and they stuck with me so well because I do believe it's 100% true. So the 3 things that you need to learn any skill are knowledge about the skill, practice at the skill, and then feedback to grow. Now, Toastmasters does this in an incredible way. Most Toastmaster clubs, I hope, meet on a weekly basis. And since Toastmasters provides a certain curriculum, so the knowledge already, you can then join the meetings every week or every other week, or some clubs may only meet once a month, but you get the knowledge and you practice the knowledge at the meetings. And then in the meetings also you get the feedback from other members who are usually more experienced, and if not just as experienced as yourself, and they get to see your speech from a different perspective, and therefore they give you feedback on your speech. Then you take the feedback and you internalize it and you practice with getting the feedback, and therefore you get better and better and better. The 3 things are the tripod of learning a skill. Again, you need knowledge about the skill, you need practice, you need to actually do the work, and then you need feedback on how you did so you can improve your performance over time. I love that. I love that. It's for any skill. It's not just Toastmasters. If you want to learn carpentry, you need knowledge, practice, and feedback. If you want to be a plumber, you need knowledge, practice, and feedback. If you want to be a golfer, you need knowledge, practice, and feedback. If you want to be any sort of athlete or any skill that you want to learn, you need knowledge, practice, and feedback. That is the theory of the tripod of learning any skill. And it works. It works. Toastmasters has been around for a long time. I do not know the exact dates, but they have been around for a long time, and they've really, really crafted this learning a skill. They've crafted the art of learning communications. They've crafted and mastered the art of becoming a leader. And they've really, really made it possible that people can learn those skills in a safe environment. And they can take what they learn in the safe environment out into the real world that, let's be honest, can be quite hostile towards public speakers or people who want to take on a leadership position. And then practice the skills in the real world, get feedback there, maybe take the feedback to Toastmasters and grow as an individual in such an incredible way. I love Toastmasters for that, because that was not only the biggest convincing statement that you need practice or knowledge, practice, and feedback, but it was also something that I could align with so much, and I could take this into any other life situation and therefore use something that I learned at Toastmasters for my real life skills. And that was one of the biggest lessons for sure. So when you join Toastmasters, you become a member, and I'll just show you on the screen here, hopefully you can see all this, that this would be the website. Now you have a profile. Obviously it says welcome Karl. This is just the Toastmasters website. You can even visit at the website just as a visitor, and it's toastmasters.org. Obviously what you have your profile, you have an about page, you learn more about pathways, which, like I said, is the curriculum that they provide. On the education tab, you get all the resources that count towards the education. You can check into membership. You can even see where there's other clubs. And then there's the second part. This is all mostly the education portion of Toastmasters. And then obviously there is the leadership side, where you can check into multiple ways of becoming a better leader. And the first start of being a better leader starts usually by taking a role at a meeting, which I'll go into in a little second. And then it just gets you step up in levels. You take a role in the meeting, then maybe you take on a role in the executive, then maybe you take on a role on the area management, and then from the area management you get into the division management, and from the division management you get into the district leadership. And from the district leadership, you might want to get into the regional leadership, which is a large amount of clubs already. And then from there, you can obviously get all the way up to headquarters. And if you ask Jim, it is very, very straightforward how to make yourself such an incredible leader that you're steering towards the president, the international president of Toastmasters International, which is an incredibly, incredibly sought after position by so many. And it's just looks wonderful on the resume. I'm sure it does. And it just opens doors that you could never believe happen. So that's the leadership portion on the website. Then you have the resources where you can find almost any document you could ever need in Toastmasters. Toastmasters provides a magazine. They provide it in print and or online. You can check out all the events that Toastmasters provides all around the globe. And then obviously there's a shop where you can buy merchandise or things that you could just use to run a better meeting, run a better club, and just become a better leader. You can find a club, you can start a club, you get in touch with Toastmasters, and you obviously have a search bar, and it's just a very, very nicely built website, and you can probably check it out yourself. Toastmasters.org, just a wonderful, wonderful way of checking out a world that is so incredibly and helps so many people all around the globe. It connects a lot of people all around the globe. The Toastmasters International profile, and I just want to share this as a sneak peek basically of what you can expect from Toastmasters International. This is my profile. I'm not going to show everything, but this is my profile where you can basically go to the base camp, which leads you into the Pathways base camp, where you can start out for your curriculum. You can choose a new path. This additional path would cost me money. The first path is always included in the membership, and then you have the navigator. I'm currently enrolled in 4 paths, and I could visit them. You can check out when you've become a member. You can check out your membership number, the education awards, the club support history. Where have you supported clubs and in which way? Have you been a mentor? Have you been a club sponsor? You can check all that out. Your membership history, your offices held, your order history, and your downloads. You can check all of that out. Now, again, the way of a Toastmaster is pretty straightforward. We have here the traditional way of becoming a Toastmaster, where you've earned your competent communicator, your competent leader. You served a complete 1-year term as a district officer. You've been a club sponsor, mentor, or coach. You participated in the preparation of a club success plan, and I'll go into that a little bit later as well. You've earned your Advanced Communicator Gold or Advanced Toastmaster Gold, which is basically the advanced levels, and then they want you to achieve the Advanced Leadership Silver as well, and then after that you can apply to become a Distinguished Toastmaster. Now in Pathways it's a little bit different, but then again, very, very achievable. You complete 2 learning paths, which is about the equivalent of 50 tasks or assignments. They could be as little as creating a speech, a first introductory speech without any outline or any recommendations, or the one that I'm doing right now is to create a podcast, to create something rather sophisticated that you would like to publish online, maybe on YouTube or maybe on iTunes. And all of the assignments are very achievable. You can do multiple assignments at any given time. Toastmasters is self-paced, so you decide how much you put into it. And I always say how much you put into it is how much you get out of it. So if you do 2 assignments a week, maybe you belong to multiple clubs, or maybe your club just meets multiple times, you can get a lot of assignments done. And if you have 50 weeks of Toastmaster meetings, let's just say 1 full year, you can get done 50 assignments, let's just say. And therefore you can certainly achieve 2 paths in 1 year. And that's not necessarily everybody's pace, but it's certainly possible. Then, of course, you would want to be a club officer for at least 12 months. And what that basically says is that you took on the next level of leadership. The first level of leadership is the meeting, and the next level of leadership is the executive. Now, for the executive, you can become a club officer for 12 months, and then you have served the club executive for 1 whole year and learned an incredible wealth of knowledge, because twice a year Toastmasters provides club officer training, so a leadership training with a curriculum provided by Toastmasters to become just better at being a club officer and therefore become much better at being a leader. I will go into the individual club officers at a later time, and I will probably have additional videos or podcasts on the individual club officer roles at a later time as well, just because there's so much to cover. Then they would want you to complete a 1-year term as a district officer. Now, this could be an area director, a division director, maybe you're part of the district executive, maybe you're a membership growth officer, some sort of leadership on the district level to get this criteria fulfilled to become a distinguished Toastmaster. They would want you or need you to serve successfully as a club mentor or club coach. Basically, when they see that a club needs help for whatever reason, maybe a lot of people have left the club due to a change in economy or due to a change in the fee structure, or maybe people just moved away because something happened and the club is struggling, the district will basically allow the club to have a club mentor or club coach, and they will help find the club coach for the club, and then the coach will stay with them for a year or as long as it takes to get the club back on their feet. It's a very incredible role. It's a lot of fun. It's really, really rewarding, because usually when a club coach gets a club back on track, there's a lot of gratitude from both ways. A club coach having the incredible privilege to help a group of people come together and create an environment of leadership and an environment of learning and growing. And the club obviously is helpful because there's an individual that cares enough about them as a club to help them out and to really get them through a tough time. Then they would want you to serve successfully as a club sponsor, which basically just means that you help get a club started, or you can conduct a speechcraft or youth leadership program. A speechcraft is basically where a club invites the public and shows them over a certain period of time how to craft and create a strong speech, maybe for a wedding, maybe for a eulogy, maybe for a contest, maybe it is for work, a presentation or a speech of some sort. And after that, the members of the public are invited to join the Speechcraft program, learn that. It's much like a course or a seminar over a certain period of time. And then obviously they're encouraged to become Toastmasters members to practice the skills and to really hone those skills, craft speeches on an ongoing basis. The youth leadership program is much the same, where it is basically just getting a group of young people, youth, together and really assisting them to find their voice in a nutshell. We're assisting youth to find the message and to be able to communicate it very, very clearly. For that, you get a credit, and that helps you towards your Distinguished Toastmaster designation. Then, of course, you would have to complete the Distinguished Toastmaster project, where you create a project of your own to demonstrate the skills and the expertise that you've gained throughout the whole progress, from usage of words to language skills that you gain over vocal variety or gestures with your hands, facial expressions, and maybe even posture. Anything that you can learn in Toastmasters, you put into one project and try to demonstrate as much as you can what you've learned over the period of time that it took you to become a distinguished Toastmaster. It's very achievable, and it's really, really something else that is just so wonderful to watch. Now, how does Toastmasters set up on a weekly basis? How does it work? What do we do? And I can just share the schedule or the program that we have with the Innovative Communicators Toastmasters Club. One thing that I should mention is that a lot of clubs run things different. We have, as the Innovative Communicators, we have a Dropbox account. And in the Dropbox account, as you can see, we have anything and everything from the guest packet or guest packet folder to the marketing materials, to membership applications, to officer training, a whole folder for pathways related things, anything that the president needs, the grammarian, the general evaluator, the timer, maybe the Toastmaster, the secretary, the table topics. I'll explain what that is in a second. The treasurer, the vice president of education, the vice president of membership, the vice president of public relations, and so on. There's a lot to cover, and I'll get into what a meeting would look like in just a second. But every club runs their club very individually and maybe a little bit different from other clubs, but that's the unique experience of Toastmasters International. You get so much and such a close-knit family, and each club is a little bit different. So you might like this club because they're very philosophical, and you might like the other club because they're very driven into a self-growth and growing opportunity in general. But our club, the Innovative Communicators, we focus on growth. And a lot of the speeches are around growth. And our meetings are usually set up around growth. We would love to learn and have every member grow every single meeting. We meet every Wednesday. We meet at a hotel, at a little conference center, and we have our own little room set up. And it's a dinner club. So what that means is we're going to have 45 minutes of program. Then we'll have a break where everybody can have supper if they want to. And then we'll continue another 45 minutes-ish. It's from 5:30 to 7. Now, how does a meeting work? What does a meeting look like? Usually, and this is just, again, our experience or how we do things at our club at the Innovative Communicators. We have the Toastmaster, which is basically the MC, the person that guides you through the meetings. And then there's a couple of other roles that stand out throughout the meeting, and those are the small portions of leadership that you take on and practice, because when you take responsibility over a certain portion of the meeting, that's literally what leadership is. I take responsibility of the timer today. I'm going to be the MC, so that's my little leadership. And then there's the grammarian next, where you can see the grammarian or A counter is basically responsible for holding everybody accountable to the usage of words. Maybe a person has a personal crutch word like so, or maybe it is a personal crutch word. For the longest time, I used to say cool all the time. I used to in almost every single sentence. And what it did was it became my crutch word, and I overused it to the point that it lost its value. Things weren't cool anymore because everything was cool, and therefore cool wasn't really the word to be used anymore. So now I use awesome or accelerating or any word that comes into my mind, but I have a selection of words instead of just using the word cool. What the grammarian or the A counter would also do is they would introduce to the group, to the people present at the meeting, the word of the day. Now, the word of the day usually is supposed to be a word that's not in our everyday language. It's supposed to be a word that you might want to challenge the audience or challenge the members to incorporate more and more. And incorporate might be a perfect example, because we say use all the time, but maybe every now and then we should not use the word use, but maybe we should use the word incorporate. I incorporated a new software at work. Or I could say I use a new software at work, but incorporate just has a little bit of a better ring sometimes, depending on how you use it. So we practice using a word of the day, and in our club, the person that uses the word of the day the most times per meeting gets a little credit that they can use towards their membership. The next rule that we have in the meetings is the timer. Why do we have a timer? We want to make sure that everybody's on the same page, that we respect other people's time and also our own time. Time is limited. There's a lot of value in time, and therefore we want to make sure we don't waste it. So if your speech assignment is, let's just say, 5 minutes, you have to craft a speech for the 5-minute realm. Now it could be 5:35 or it could be 4:35, but if it's 11 minutes, and yes, I've been there, it's a little harsh because you've not only taken away the time from other people, but you've also really didn't follow what the curriculum asked of you. You want to make sure that if there is a time criteria, that you stick to it out of respect for others and to just practice yourself and to get a feeling for how much time you really spend talking. Especially if you're like me, you like talking a lot, you got to pay attention to time. And you got to make sure that timing is understood. Because even in a message, you don't want to lose the audience. You want to make sure that timing is in the back of your head at all times. And therefore we have a timer, and usually they have a device at the end of the back of the room where the speaker can see them, which is much like a traffic light. So they'll give you a signal at green, which means you're good, at yellow, which means, hey, you're about there, and then red, where it's just time to wrap it up and to finish your speech with a nice conclusion. What we do when we have assigned all the roles, usually we assign them in advance. There's one more role that I should introduce actually, which is the general evaluator. And you'll see him towards the end of the meeting schedule down here a little bit more. Basically what the general evaluator does, he or she just takes notes on how the meeting goes and how everything flows. From how was the room set up to how is the Toastmaster doing in transitioning in and out of sections of the meeting. How are the members behaving throughout the meeting? How's everybody doing with their assignments, etc., etc. So the general evaluator leads through the evaluation portion at the end of the meeting, and I'll get into that at a later point in time as well. So we start our meeting. The Toastmaster usually introduces the theme of the day, which could vary from April Fools to Christmas, a Christmas theme to politics to, we just had one about Rotten Tomatoes, the webs or internet service that rates movies. And we had a whole meeting about that and what people thought about it. And then we have everybody try to introduce themselves in a minute or less. We do like to encourage people, even guests and new members, to try to get up to a minute, which if you're speaking in front of a crowd for the first time can be incredibly hard. But we try to encourage everybody and train everybody to get to about a minute, because that's what is in society a good time to introduce yourself to someone, where you are saying enough, not too much, but you're certainly saying enough to create interest and maybe even leave a wonderful impression on another person. After we have introduced every single person in the room, including our guests, the Toastmaster will usually hold a toast. This is, at least is in our club. Now we do the toast with either water or wine. Usually it's water. And what it basically is the Toastmaster will create a toast, about 2 to 3 minute little speech, a toast, usually in line with the theme of the day. And what it basically looks like is they will get a small creative little essay going or speech going where they will usually encourage the members to have some food for thought with them. Maybe it's a quote or maybe it's a little passage out of a book. And then we will cheers to growth and development. After the toast, we have our humorist and our tipster. Each of them are about 2 minutes. What we do as a humorist is basically tell a funny story and try to make it as entertaining for the audience as possible, or literally read jokes, because it takes practice to deliver jokes properly. And as a tipster, we give people the opportunity to share a tip. Now, this could be a tip on anything. It could be a tip on something inside of Toastmasters, or it could be an everyday tip. One of our members shares the most amazing recipes or cooking tips every time she signs up as a tipster. And other people share tips from work. I share tips from my construction company and things that I learned in construction that could be super valuable for members who are homeowners. With those 2 sections, we give especially new members the first little chance to get up there in front of a group and practice something, or practice to speak in front of a group about something that they choose, right? A tip could be your tip. A humor could be your humor. It could be your story. It could be something that you don't have to rehearse because you know your story. You know your tip, right? It could be very easy and a very nice way to get into speaking for about 2 minutes. After that, we usually have our table topic session. The table topic session. What that basically means is that it is the impromptu portion of the meeting. Now imagine, if you will, you're at work and you're in your office, let's just say, or at your station, at your place of work, and the owner of the company or the manager of the company comes with a small group of people, comes into your office or comes to your place of work and asks you a question, and you have to answer the question. Basically, if you don't answer the question, you'll be fired. That might be a bit too harsh, but the boss comes in with a group of people, asks you a question, and without preparation, you have to come up with an answer and deliver the answer well. That's a skill. That is absolute a skill to have. Impromptu speaking, off the cuff speaking, extemporaneously speaking is a skill that everybody should learn. Now, how we do that, we have a table topic master, basically the MC for the portion of the meeting that are called the table topics. And that person prepares 3 or 4 table topic questions ahead of time. And then what he does or she does is, what the person does is they call up a volunteer. And as the volunteer comes up to the stage, they have them pick question 1, 2, or 3, let's just say, and then they present the volunteer with the question. Have you used a service like Rotten Tomatoes in the past to make up your mind on whether or not you should watch a certain movie or not? That could be a question, right? Or a political thing. Our Prime Minister has recently done this and this. What do you think about it? And then you have 2 minutes to come up with a mini speech. It should have an opening. It should have a body where you make your case. And then it should have a conclusion as some sort of summary. There are Toastmaster-wide competitions, for example, for table topics, where we find out who's the more creative person and the better speaker, who is better at coming up with a mini speech on any given topic impromptu. Who can do the best job of giving an impromptu mini speech? There are competitions and awards, and it's a wonderful time. It's certainly something that will be offered when you become a member of a Toastmaster club. Those are the table topic sessions. Now, the table topic sessions usually feature 3 little speeches. So 3 volunteers will have a chance to speak. And what the table topics master will then encourage the group to do is to pick, first of all, pick their best speaker of the day. And second of all, they will pick the person that they think has most improved at their speaking. Now that obviously sets the mood that you would have to have seen that person speak before to be able to judge whether or not they are able to improve. But we pick the best speaker and we pick the most improved speaker of the day, and the results are being given at the end of the meeting. It's a wonderful thing. After the table topic sessions, usually we give room to have a business meeting. Now, a business meeting is basically where the executive of a club, the leadership of a club, has the opportunity to share with the members and share about news and maybe share about decisions that they've made and maybe bring up a vote and just use the time to really communicate all the things that are happening on a Toastmaster realm from the executive's perspective. It's a wonderful thing. After that, we have our 10-minute break. And in that break, like I said, everybody gets to use the washroom or maybe order some food and maybe just socializes and networks for a second. And after the speech, after the break, we will get into the section of the prepared speeches. The section of the prepared speeches. Now, as the name says, you will be able to prepare a speech. You sign up as a speaker and then you prepare a speech alongside with your curriculum. You prepare the speech on any given topic or on a topic that the curriculum likes you to speak about, and you can mold that a little bit to just make it work for you. And you will then have a person who is your evaluator. For each speech, there will be an evaluator. Read out the objectives of the speech to the group so everybody knows what you're working on and kind of what you're trying to achieve with that speech. And then the Toastmaster, like an MC at a special event, at a keynote event, will introduce you and you will give your speech. They're usually about 5 to 7 minutes. The speech assignments, the entry-level speech assignments are a little bit shorter, and the advanced or master speech assignments are longer, for sure. After that, the Toastmaster will usually give the audience the time for about a minute to give feedback. And again, that's what we all grow from at Toastmasters. It's the knowledge, the practice, and the feedback. Now, you get feedback from all of the audience members. We call them love notes because we hand out little sheets, little sticky notes, and people will write down their feedback and pass it on to the speaker. And what they do is they create this environment of growing from so many different angles. Everybody picks up different things from your speech. So getting all the feedback from a group of 20 people is a wealth of knowledge, a wealth of feedback that you could not get anywhere else. You have your speech, we give room to give feedback, you get the feedback, and then if you have a second speaker, the second speaker will go up and deliver their speech. Once all the speeches and the feedback giving on a written basis are complete, the meeting moves into the evaluation portion of the meeting. The evaluation portion of the meeting. This is where all the feedback is happening. That's where it's at. The general evaluator usually leads that section of the meeting. So he will give general comments. What did the room look like? What did everybody look like? How did we do? And what did they like? Where do they see room for improvement? All those comments would be the general evaluator's portion. He would give general feedback. After the general feedback, he would usually call up the speech evaluators. Those would be the people that evaluate the speakers. And then the evaluators have about 2 to 3 minutes to give a full-on speech, a mini speech, again, an evaluation of the speech in front of everybody. They would give praise. They would give feedback. They would let the person know what they can improve on their next speech. They would share what they liked about the speech. They could share what they didn't like about the speech. They could share anything that comes to mind to give as much feedback to the speaker as possible to do a better job next time. After the general evaluator has called up the speech evaluators, he would then call up the grammarian to give a grammarian's report and let everybody know how did we do on grammar, how did we use the words that we have available in an excellent way, where was there odd ways or maybe even completely wrong usage of the English language, where was there a crutch word, maybe there was crutch words like ahs, ums, and so, or maybe there was a personal crutch word. Throughout this speech, I noticed that I said wonderful. It's a wonderful thing a lot. And I could make that so much more diverse if I wanted to. And I'm doing my best to do it now. But maybe it's a personal crutch word. So the grammarian would give a report. And in our club, the person that used the word of the day the most gets a little credit. Again, they can use it towards their membership. The general evaluator would then call up the timer. And the timer gives a timer's report. How long did the speeches take? How long did the individual table topic speeches take? How long did the introductions take? Just to give everybody a feeling of, hey, I was over or under the time limit given. The individual sections have certain times, and either you're under or over or right on the mark. And the timer will give you a report at the end of the meeting and let you know how you did, which again is feedback that is so valuable. After that, the general evaluator makes quick comments about the evaluators and the timer and the grammarian, just to let them know how they did and just give some feedback on how they maybe could improve or what they loved about their reports. Then we would touch base on the next meeting schedule. We basically set up who would like to be Toastmaster, who would like to be grammarian, who would like to be any role of the meeting. Then we would present awards, right? The Best Speaker Award and the Most Improved Speaker Award. And then the Toastmaster would adjourn the meeting. And one of those meetings happens almost every week. And the innovative communicators are meeting 50 times out of 52 weeks a year. Now, not every member is there every meeting, but someone is there all the time unless otherwise communicated. What we're trying to provide is basically this environment of growth, an environment of safety, an environment where people feel so comfortable sharing their story, finding their voice, that we can all grow together. There's so much more about being a Toastmaster, and this is really just scratching the surface, but this is an hour-long video almost already. I can only recommend everyone check it out. Go to a club, find a club in your neighborhood. You will become a Toastmaster and get one of those wonderful name badges. You will become a family member of the Toastmaster clan. It is really quite economical, at least in the club that I belong to. It is very economical and very affordable to go to a Toastmaster meeting. And in this particular club, it works out to about $5 a meeting, which is about $20 a month, which is about $240 a year, I believe. Something like that. It's a little bit less, I even want to say. But that's a coffee a week to practice skills, to become better at communication and at leadership, and it just trains such an incredible thing. If you have mastered the meeting, you can become part of the executive, and this is probably the last thing that I want to touch base on in this video, and then we will go into the individual sections in upcoming videos afterwards. The executive of a club is basically the leadership team, is the team that runs the club and hopefully takes the club to become a distinguished club. There's certain levels of being distinguished. The first level is being distinguished. Then you can become select distinguished, and then you become president's distinguished, which is the highest achievement that you can reach on a yearly basis. The executive would want to make sure that every new member is assigned a mentor or maybe a person to help them get started. The executive will ensure that all the curriculum, all the information, all the knowledge is available to everybody and that they have access to everything online or maybe even in print. And the executive will take care that all the membership dues are taken care of, that the room that you have the meetings in are booked in advance, and that the agenda is set up, and that roles are assigned. And the executive consists of 7 people, I believe. There's the president, the vice president of education, who takes care of anything relating to the curriculum. Then there's the vice president of membership, and he takes care, or she takes care of all the membership, of course. There's the vice president of public relations. The person takes care of public relations. There is the secretary, and they basically take care of all the documentation. Who takes the minutes in the executive meetings? Who gets all the documentations to Toastmasters headquarters? And so on. There's a lot to it. Then there is the treasurer. That person obviously takes care of all the financials. And then there's the sergeant at arms. And the sergeant at arms basically takes care of anything to do with setup. The sergeant at arms is also responsible to introduce people. And that's a skill to learn as well, for sure. So what the executive does in our club, they try to meet every month and they just discuss everything relating to club business. Should the club go and see if they can get better publicity out in the community? Should the club look to maybe help the community with a certain cause? They decide where to spend the money. Maybe we need a new projector. Maybe we need a new lectern. Maybe we need a new timing light. Maybe we do need better badges for the members.Maybe we want some pins. Maybe we should get some awards for the people who really help the club, who really do a lot for the club. The executive does all that and so much more. They try to steer and lead the club into the right direction where everybody gets better and better. They create the environment and the well-being of the club by being excellent leaders and showing the rest of the club members what it means to become a leader and what it means to really have the best of others, be interested and really care about other people's desires. So we want, as the executive, want to create an environment where so many people feel warm and welcome at the club, that they are glad to join, that they want to join, that they want to be in this environment of growth. That's what the executive does. They also provide and assign mentors. And a mentor is basically an experienced member who will then mentor or help someone who just started out to get started, get on track, get the first speeches out there and get up there and get in front of people and really practice those skills and start on the journey. Now, I could probably talk another hour about Toastmasters, but as a summary, I would say that Toastmasters is giving so much to so many people all around the globe. Try to find a club. Go check it out as a guest. And really internalize that this is the place to be when it comes to leadership and communications. Again, you need 3 things to learn a skill: knowledge about the skill, practice at the skill, and feedback. And Toastmasters is, in my opinion, the best way to get that and to learn leadership and to learn communications. If you ever have a chance to check out a club, please do so. Go on toastmasters.org, click the Find a Club button, and it'll show you all the clubs near you. And if you're ever in Grand Prairie, Alberta, in Canada, please come and visit the Innovative Communicators. I hope you loved this video. Please give me some feedback in the comments. And it's going to be a podcast of some sort as well. If you like the video, please share it and make it available to others as well. I'm going to make a lot more of those videos. But for today, I encourage everybody who's watching this video and who really made it through an hour of me just blabbing on about Toastmasters to check out a club as a guest. I highly encourage you to become a member and practice those skills, both communication and leadership, and really grow as a person, because it's going to help you in your professional and in your private life in a way that you could not even imagine. Until the next time, Again, my name is Karl Vetter, and I hope to see you soon in the Toastmasters family.